time. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And Venus is back from the retrograde. So this is, it's not really Sunday anymore. It is Jupiter night and it is Jupiter hour with the ascendant very close to mine in Pisces and the midheaven ruled by Jupiter. So we have a Jupiter, 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 with Jupiter still direct in Taurus. It's going retrograde today. So I'm taking my time. The moon is exalted in Taurus and Venus is direct in Leo. So Venus being direct, what does it mean for you? Okay, now I'm not sure if I released the episode where I talked about Venus stationing in Leo, but you can definitely hear, even in the tone of my voice, the difference between a retrograde Venus, a reflective Venus, a Venus that purges everything basically from the throat chakra and from the sex chakra, the second sex chakra, which is the sacral chakra. Okay, because behind the sacral chakra, we have our kidneys, which is also Venus ruled, and this is Libra. Now, of course, planets rule more than one body organ, but in general, we can understand that the Venus retrograde, we were very much purging everything that does not allow us to relate in an authentic Leo shine. Okay, we're very much getting rid. So anything we had to say, anything we had, when any gaze we had to withdraw and kind of focus on other things, any experiments that we had to make, any attempts that we had to make, including allowing ourselves to be seen in a different light and experimenting with that. Any differences to our artistic style, to our musical style, and perhaps also to our value system, we definitely have been purging. And so now Venus is direct. Venus is still in her shade period, and she will continue to be in her shade period until pretty much the end of Leo, and then she will oppose Saturn and conjunct Lilith in Virgo already and next to Regulus. So we're not done with the Venus trials. I guess not the Venus trials, but more like the Venus verdicts, the Venus purging, the Venus confrontation. We're not done with that yet, and Venus rules Ketu, which is purging. So it's not like you can get married now, because you cannot. Like, I would not plan the wedding. And if you do, by the way, if you had to set an appointment and you had to plan the wedding, my best advice, and I'm not an electional astrologist professionally, is for you to find a better date, to go to an electional astrologist and find a better date for having a ceremony that is going to celebrate that commitment. Okay, if you have to get married, if you had to get married in Venus retrograde or in Venus shade period, which is while Venus is in Leo, consult an astrologer, find a date where you can re-celebrate your wedding or renewing your vows in a better position. Okay, that's one thing I can think of. I can't say it will resolve all the marriage problems. We definitely had a Venus retrograde that kind of like I'm not like, I don't watch the yellow pages. If a celebrity comes to my energy field, is basically either something that's very meaningful to me, or something needed to change in my life, or something that's relevant to the podcast, maybe something that's accentuated by the transits. Okay, I'm not a yellow pages person. Okay, I did filmmaking, I did screenwriting, I even did some acting and singing, but I'm not a yellow pages person. So I don't know about all the things that went through, but there were a lot of couples that were considered by people, oh, they will never break up, and they did. On the other hand, there was the success of the Barbie movie, which you've probably seen other episodes. I know people like Demetra George, Chris Brennan, Peter Watson and Nick Dagan Best, which I remember not to call him the human ephemerist. It was the two human ephemerists together that did such episodes, and that's all amazing. Now, and of course we had been purging the kind of like Me Too, but not just Me Too for women, which is surprising to me because I did not know. It was by Austin Coppock that I learned that there was a video about the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp case, kind of like going through it, and not only have been we re-acknowledging women's rights, but we have also been acknowledging the rights to willing consent for men and to right to have a peaceful relationship for men. So those cases were probably not all of them were acknowledged too, and that was fascinating. I think the trine with Aries for Venus, the trine with Aries in Aries, and kind of like Aries in a Mars rule sign, Venus with Ketu in a Venus sign, ruling Ketu in a Venus sign, kind of allowed us to look back also at those cases which were more difficult to integrate or more even triggering to integrate into our righteous feelings and righteous relation, basically, because it's Venus, and righteous values. So that was the Venus retrograde. Actually, as she's stationed today, I had the feeling or the nudge to listen to a channeling of Princess Diana, which talked about mother wound and about being more like a friend with her children, but also in the sense that not paying boundaries to her expression of her femininity or sexual or eroticism. I don't know in what way she meant that, and the channel was not going to delve deeper into this personal information, but that was very interesting to hear. And it's not for nothing that I listened to, as Algol was on the Minima, she was on the Minima today or yesterday for some of you. So I did not call on Algol, but the story of, Diana and the entire like royal house there had Algol association. I think Diana had Venus with Algol, and of course the royalty family, which is not only Regulus but also Leo and the Sun. So I guess that was what prompted me to listen to this right as Venus stationed. So now, direct. Venus is not yet like out of it, okay? She's still going forward. And what you see, perhaps opportunities, because Venus is squaring Jupiter here. Jupiter is opportunities, and Jupiter is direct right now for these coming hours, and it will be retrograde. Opportunities may present themselves, okay? After we cleared up what we had to clear up, so opportunities may present themselves up, acting on planning, acting on our realizations, acting on our values or on our renewed values may be impromptu. Okay, you hear this word impromptu, in place. So right now the Leo house is where you've been purging, and now you are acting on your new realizations. Okay, so without further ado, let's check. Let's check what does it mean for each of the 12 ascendants. Okay, so for ascendant Pisces, which is where the ascendant is right now, Venus is in the 6th house and the Sun is in the 7th house. Okay, it's not just Venus, she has a ruler. Okay, so 6th and 7th. The 6th is your pets. Maybe you were thinking about taking a pet, adopting a pet, kind of like making a decision about raising a pet. And with the Sun in the 7th, maybe you've been thinking about a partner, or it could be something as simple as it's important for me to keep the cats when I have, let's say, a partner. And so if they are allergic to cats, then it means that, I will not give up my cats, okay? Either I will give up the partner, or we will find a way to live separately and do what we need to do. Maybe cleaning, because it's Virgo, cleaning, so that we can somehow live together. So it can be something as simple as that, okay? I understood that the place of my pet in my life is something very healing, it's very important. I'm not going to give up the pet for a significant relationship. Or maybe you have been separating and you're thinking about deciding, okay, maybe shared custody with the pet and stuff like that, and you're having arrangement, which you will have to overdo in this case, because Mercury, the ruler of the seventh, is retrograde still, okay? Other thing of sixth house is your health, your physical health. So it could be related to your fitness and nutrition, okay? For me, as Pisces ascendant, Venus is ruling the third house, and also my kind of like my neighborhood, which is also my garden. And I have been working in my garden as Venus stationed, and kind of feeling my muscles, and I like it. And I'm like, yeah, I would like to do that. I like it that I work in my garden. I would like to keep that. This is good fitness, and I like to feel my body again. It's just been a while. So you might be having these revelations, whether it's your third house and sixth and seventh. You might be renewing, or you might be acting on a new fitness regime, a new food regime. And this food is going to be very good for your eyes, for your eyesight, and for your throat, which also means hormonal system, and your adrenals and your kidneys. Okay, so those are all things that you are thinking about. And sixth house is also ruling labor. And I found with Venus stationing, basically I met the person who was a doula on Twitter. She talked about home birthing. So I don't know what it means for me, but definitely the issue of the process of labor. Maybe you have certain values. What is your opinion about home birth, about the combination? And I refer you to Catherine Urban video about the story of the birth, and it was very beautiful. I will not ruin it for you. It has to do with Uranus and technology and home birth, and I will not ruin it for you. So you might be thinking about birth giving, the fate of the children as well, with Mercury here in the seventh, and the process of birthing. Maybe you're preparing your body for or maybe you're giving birth. Who knows? So that can. So sixth house is also you as an employee, the service you give out to the world, or your employees. If you're a boss, then the sixth house is your employees. It used to be your slaves. And this is why it's also the house of pets, because pets would be our employees. Right now, they're still our employees. They're just being very pampered and hopefully very pampered and kind of like, broody and Walter something the third and so on and so forth. So shout out to the beautiful pets of YouTube. And that in this particular context, you might be thinking about your service to the world, whether paid service or unpaid service. How do you serve that which is beyond you? And depending on where your sun is, well, in this thing, sun in the seventh, it may mean that you may be giving advice to people about relationships or relationships in their house. I gave advice to someone about her roommate. And this is actually a story. The roommate came from Ukraine, so after the war, and she had a son. And she was so tired she could barely cook, and when she cooked, it would be very difficult for her to clean up after her. And of course, the Soviet Facebook friend, of course, had a lot of problems with that, and then they started astrologizing that partner and so on and so forth. So I had to bring a little bit of a peace, a little bit of hope, a little bit of humor into the situation, to kind of listen to her, hear her out, but also explain to her what is she doing that makes the partner even more antagonistic towards her, and what can she do to improve her housing, and kind of bless her in that respect. So I can see how that played out for me, because Mercury is ruling both 7th and 4th. But for you, it can be something different. How do you serve the people? You may have an understanding deeper understanding of the value that you have to bring to people in your workplace. And perhaps this value, you can make money for it, okay? So it can also be what do you need from employees? What do you expect from employees, okay? And with Leo, your employees like to shine, okay? Now the sun is in the seventh, so you might be giving consultation to somebody, to your employee, about their own relations with someone else, okay? Or you might be thinking about the values of employees and relations and so on and so forth, kind of making up your own mind about this. But you also might be aware that your employees, if they're ruled by Leo, they like to be the star of the show. So how do you allow the employees to give the star of the show? And if that's the case for you, I want to give you an example. I want to give you an example of an African woman who came back to Africa after studying in Britain and being a business owner for a decade. She came back to Africa and she founded a winery. It's basically a place that produces rum. And so she went all the way to the history of rum, which apparently was black manufacture, and the recipe was black manufacture, even though black culture is not associated with rum. And so she decided to do this, and she made rum with hibiscus and rum with, kind of like African flavors, and named the company Reign, okay? Not rain like raindrops, Reign like rule, okay? REIGN. And that company now produces rum and they accept orders. So if you're interested, whether it's for your tinctures or for leisure, not for addiction, then she basically bought 2,000 acres of land, planted all of them, made a forest out of all of them. She employs people, and her values is that every employee must feel like a king. So the people are reigning, okay? Even the people who are doing agriculture, is very difficult and tedious work. They are rulers, so she's giving them at least the feeling and as much as she can the treatment of a ruler. You might be thinking about this story and thinking, how do I do this in my company? How do I make my employees feel like kings and queens? So when they shine and when they are appreciated and understand they need this, now they can produce and they can be effective and they can be healthy. And then I will be healthy, because sixth house is your employees and your physical health. If your employees are not healthy, you are sick. You might be aware, who are your employees? Who are the people who serve you? Maybe if you are like me, if you're receiving like welfare because you were sick, you could not work, and you're receiving welfare, trying to come out of it, and try to think about your sickness and about where is the money coming from. And maybe you thought it's from taxpayers' money, but no, it is your money when you used to work, and then it is reinvested. And so where it is reinvested in all kinds of businesses around the world. For example, Israel is selling weapons also to Eritrea, and we had a case where Eritrean people rebelled against a fest that was in the Eritrean embassy in Israel by the Eritrean regime. And the people are like, why are Eritreans so pissed? And those who support the regime, they can come to the country. Why do they keep him here? And it was not those who supported the regime that protested. But the thing is that Israel sells weapons to that regime in Eritrea. And so Eritrea sends people to spy and to oppress the population, even in Israel and even in the diaspora. And so when you think about these things, you think about your 401k, which ends up being your welfare if you get welfare, or retirement, is being reinvested and you don't know where it's being reinvested. And the challenges that the people deal can have to do with the challenges that you are dealing. Okay, I had suicide ideation for many, many, many years, and I realized that, a lot of the funds in Israel is invested in places where people work and even children work in conditions so difficult that they want to kill themselves. And at work, I felt like I want to kill myself. Why? Because if the money, if I pay taxes to the government, the taxes is being reinvested there. My employees, okay, the people who make my taxes boom so that I can get welfare, they're not healthy. So of course I'm not healthy. Okay, you can get that now. You can have this realization now. You can tend to it. You can think. You can ask, what do I do? And be open to receive solution. And now you can act on these solutions, like I'm speaking right now, spreading awareness. So This is for ascendant Pisces. And of course, it can be enemies. Okay, sixth house can be enemies or enemies at work. And again, you might be thinking about, you might be understanding when do you need to bless an enemy, when do you need to set a boundary, how to set a boundary spiritually, physically, and now you act on it. Okay, you make sure that your shine is respected. Okay, so yeah. One of the most beautiful things I've seen actually on the Venus Leo so far, we have Cameron on Twitter, and he wrote about people talking about Leos or talking about the sun, saying this is a malefic, and he thinks this is terrible. And what we project on Leo is usually what our projection is. And then we can't stand Leo, even though we may like other people's expression, other signs' expression of insecurity. So we also have a change of values and kind of realizations, eurekas, around the very, sign Leo. Okay? So yeah, that's another conversation. Ascendant Aries. So for you, this is happening in the 5th house with the ruler in your 6th. So what is the 5th house? Okay, what is the 5th house? The 5th house is children. And so you might be having them, thinking to have them. And this is not just so much labor in as much as it's children themselves. Maybe you'll be renewing your values with your children, maybe renewing your boundaries with your children, but also what you have to give. Maybe you're letting your children shine in new ways, appreciating them, or maybe you are inspirational to them because the sun here is in a Mercury sign. The sun is the 6th house. So maybe have ideas or values about being of service to the world, the importance of being of service, kind of being inspirational or inspirational with skill, maybe showing them how you can be inspired by being practical, stuff like that. And you have a renewed sense of connection with your children. 5th house is also creative projects. And so you might be thinking about launching now, because the sun is in Mercury's sign and Mercury is retrograde. We will have to wait a bit before we launch things, but it's a good time to kind of go ahead with your planning. Maybe you will have drafts. Okay. Kyra Ryberg said that it is good to repost your previous vlogs and posts with Mercury retrograde, and also your draft, to post your drafts. So you might be going over things that you are posting, but they are already connected to what you want to build in the future. Okay, there are certain things that we bring back from the past and we continue on, and there are certain things where, okay, for me, this was a post I wrote in 2022 about Uranus and Taurus, and I did not study Aries all that deeply back then, and today I brought it back with Aries, corrected what I said about natural disasters, because there are no natural disasters in 2023, and added the Übermensch connection with Aries, and the connection to poisoning, which I did not have before I had Aries involved. I was working with Uranus, and so this was the way it played out for me. You could be posting, you could be editing, posting stuff, but updating them, okay? You could be updating if you're working on, let's say, a book. Then you might be doing re-editing or having a second edition, working on it now, because now you get it more, okay? Now you get it more. And it's a creative project, that's how it manifests. And here your creative project is pretty much your service to the world. If this is your children, you are of service to the children. If this is a book or a painting or an album or performance, then you are of service. You know, this is your job. It's not just your project, at least for now. There's a connection between service and the 5th house. Another thing, that's the 5th house. We said hobbies, creative projects. We said children is also romance. So yeah, with the sun in a Mercury sun and Mercury retrograde, you might be having another flare or you may be rethinking if you didn't go back to anyone, maybe somebody knew of your exes, of the exes that didn't come back during the Venus retrograde comes back, and you might be thinking, but you must understand the sun is in your sixth, and with Venus right now, if you want to flare up something, if you have this kink when one is a servant to the other and you're okay with this, that can be okay. But for other things, sun in the sixth or the ruler of your fifth in the sixth, if you don't have it natively and kind of know how to work with it, then this is not a good time to start a new relationship. It's not a good time to have sex either, because we want pleasure to be mutual, okay? If you're not having a kind of subservient and recipient of this service, kink or fantasy, or you may be having them in this transit, but if it's not the case, then this is not a good time. You will not be both satisfied sexually, and therefore this is a big problem. And if you want us to bloom into more than a kind of like a flare on an kind of like a romance, then this might be a very big problem, because it can be one is more into the other than the, okay, this is sixth house, and I think Lee's green for this insight. So sixth house, ruler of Venus, romance, meh, but you might be thinking about romances from the past, or how your romances served the world, okay? How your falling in love served the world around you. For example, maybe you were falling in love with someone and they had certain values, and to please them, you kind of acted in a certain way, but then from this act of service, you actually brought value to the world, and you're kind of reminiscing or thinking about it, and then you might be renewing actually your service to the world and not so much the romance. So this can be, like a man who is infatuated with a woman, and this woman, she likes it when a man, when people are kind and giving and don't judge, let's say homeless people that ask them for money, and they don't go, I had like a boyfriend who would go, oh, they should be thankful that I even give them money. And I was like, what? If you ain't got the money, you ain't got the money. If you got the money, come on, like, give it with a blessing. And it was not coming from is it used for good, is it not used for good, okay? So you might be rethinking of the time, maybe you fell in love with someone and she was like, I don't like it when people judge, people who don't have, or people who ask, for money if you can afford, and you begin to be giving. And the fact that you begin to be giving, maybe you help, you buy a sandwich if you don't want to give money to the homeless in the street, or you buy something, like clothes, or you do something kind, and then you begin to have good karma in your life, okay? You begin to become healthier, and you can kind of reminisce and kind of think or renew this activity. Say maybe the partner, the romance, it didn't work out that well. I was more into her, she was not so much into me, or I was more into him, he was not so much into me, or I was more into him, he was not so into me, and so on. But the act of actually being kind and getting out of myself and doing something in service of the people, it made me physically healthier. And it made my life more of a joy, because the fifth house is joy. So you might be thinking that, and you might be acting on that. Okay, and then maybe you will have to revise the way you communicate, or maybe, technological features. I don't know, maybe you were given you were given donation in the press of a button, and now the technology changed, or now you meet the people physically, something like that. Okay, so, and the last thing, fifth house is gambling. With this, you might be doing trade rather than gambling, but Mercury is retrograde, so you will have to redo something. Okay? Your Majesty bought Bitcoin after the peak, but before the correction. It was not a lot of money, but I did this, and I understand this was the most serious mistake that you can do in trading, is to buy at the near peak, and then they have the correction, and you just bought it in the most expensive price possible, and now it will take a long while after you will have such peak, even with the 2024. But this is okay. It's not much money, so you could be having a similar experience. So gambling and trading and working, they have a lot in common, okay? So as Mercury is retrograde, perhaps you might be more planning. You might be trying this, trying that, but remember, you will need to redo, you will need to revise, you will need to rethink everything you're doing. If this is the case for you. And if you are needing to kick out addiction, then Venus opposing Saturn will be blessed for you in this case. So if it's addiction to gambling or, kind of the Leo addiction to sex, drugs, and rock and roll or something like that. Ascendant Taurus. And so for Ascendant Taurus, this is in your 4th house. So your 4th house is getting a booster shot in a bit of a way, or poisoning, whichever you like. So 4th house. And this is interesting because I just said booster shot or poisoning. And the thing is, you might have been changing your values. And this affects your home. And the sun is in the 5th. So maybe you have a new child in the home. And of course, sun in the 5th is representing of this newcomer. Okay, Mercury rules children. And the 6th house rules children. So it may be the case that you have another baby. And now you're thinking, should we vaccinate the baby? Should we not? And you have an argument. So it's kind of like you're having arguments about values, and now you're having arguments about medications, about vaccines, about trade, about herbs, and about children. Okay? And so maybe you were beautifying the house and now you are designing the house for the new child, which of course will not be without arguments, but also a lot of humor. Water. So, that can mean also that you have renewed sense of values with relations to your mother or father, or somebody in your family, or in the family that you are creating. Okay, you shine in a different perspective. Maybe you are doing your hobbies from home. Maybe you are fixing your environment so that it's beautifying your environment so that you will feel more creative there. Kind of stuff along that. You're adjusting, beautifying, aesthetifying the relations and the environment of the home so that you can be creative, have a child, feel better, okay, having fun and joy. You're acting on all those things. And now that may include certain contracts. This person needs to paint the room of the child, and there are delays, and there are this, and there are that. So we're moving from the Venus type of difficulty to the Mercury type, but we also have Jupiter on the way, and so ideas will continue to change. This 4th house we covered. Granted that you're not dying, so yeah, we covered the options. Oh, it's also elementary school, so maybe your children are going to elementary school now. And maybe you're thinking about, should we homeschool them? Okay, or maybe you are homeschooling the children. There are certain bureaucracies that you have to go through, and so on and so forth. Ascendant Gemini. Ascendant Gemini, this is in your 3rd house. And 3rd house, first of all, it can be siblings. So siblings and home, okay, the sun is in your 4th. You having a renewed sense of value with siblings, with home, maybe stuffs are patched up, maybe perhaps some separations have been, you've been taking time off to kind of renew the connection between your siblings and your home. Perhaps this is the time where you talk to the parents around something that happened with your siblings, or your siblings is kind of gossiping around you. In which humor and lightness is going to really, really serve you on the long run, especially when egos are being hurt. So that can be the case. It can also be a business that you run. And with this business, there's some connection to home that either you need to dissolve, or you need to kind of set boundaries to, or you need to renew contracts and have good communication against, to make sure that the values are on par with yours, and you'll be tending to that. Okay, you will be very much tending to that. You already got the clue of what it is in the retrograde, and now you're kind of working. Either you patch things up and you're acting on it, and things are moving more smoothly, but there's new communication that has to happen in result of that. So those things are kind of happening for you. Third house is also a part of your daily schedule and routine. And so it could be, like I said, a business or family business, setting boundaries to the family within having a business. But with Mercury there, you could be thinking about, your family nannying some, your children while you work, or trying to go back to work. And kind of have working and seeing what, you're trying things out with this Mercury still. Even though your values are set, now you have to apply them, which is Mercury, and that takes trial and error. And then, of course, your daily routines, that can be that. Your daily routines are very much affected in the sense that, you put your attention. Okay, here is more attention. It's not just time, it's attention. You put your focus, you put your attention on what matters day to day. If you are writing, if you are performing, you make sure that you can do it from your home, or you make sure that you set some clear boundaries to do with your home environments. Like, I need to have a studio, I need to be at the studio in so and so. Okay, I need to do my painting, or I need to paint my home or my home house. Like, even if it's a unit that you're living in and your parents are kind of thinking, should they have a tenant or something like that? I was like, no, I need to have this painting on my wall. This is my room that I was born in. I have the right to kind of, like, this has been my space. I want to paint it. And then the painting, it could be delayed, or if you're living in rent, it can be something of this sort, of like your home environment and your day-to-day values. Okay, so that is something that is changing, and you're being very clear about this. Okay, although you must not forget that Venus is going to oppose Saturn, so there are going to be delays. Only that which crosses the Saturn gate of incarnation is going to be manifesting. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I will talk about this more on another episode, because this would be Saturn, Venus. It's a whole lot of. But definitely now you're shining, you're confident, and you're also confident about your ability to apply something. You might be a bit overconfident, and it's not because you're not shining, but because it does need more trial and error. And if it includes your home environment and it's about beautifying or performing in your home environment, there may be things that you need to settle, even in terms of the law. So yeah, Ascendant Cancer, this is happening in your second house with the ruler in your third. So what you make money on, how are you related to your income and expenses? Because second house is how we make our money. It's our self-value, our value in ourselves, not sense of self like Aries, but it's our self-value, okay, which is both Venus in the second house, and what we spend our money on. So if you think about the connection between how I spend my money, how I make my money, and how does that define my value, you have had realizations. Okay, you've been purging expenses, and you've been also purging, standards that you had, or lack of standards that you had about your pricing, how much you charge for your talents. And Sun in the third house, with this nice reception between this, it's not reception, don't forget about it, Mercury retrograde, with this, third house, second house, it may be certain boundaries that you have to set with your siblings, or your siblings, if you're working with your siblings, second and third, or your siblings are working with you in your business, they might want more income, or you might want more dividends. Um, it can be to do with credit for the work, stuff like that. Maybe you have an editor. If you're writing a book, your sibling could be an editor, because Mercury Virgo can very much be editor. Somebody's editing your book. So things are still changing, and now you're acting at least upon your values. Okay, now for example, you can decide that no, I will not charge, let's say, $150 for a 30-minute reading, because that's what everybody does. To sustain myself, my children, my family, being here to sustain myself, my business, to reinvest into the business, and to live the lifestyle that I want to live, which is very second house, what I will spend my money on. And now you're spending a lot, you're reinvesting into your business, so you're spending on your siblings, or you're spending on your day-to-day routine. It can be a morning routine. It can be what you do to apply your skill. You need a certain routine to do that, especially if you're a performer. If you need to shine in a certain way, okay? If you need to shine, let's say, in front of cameras, shining in front of cameras is also Mercury, or in social media, or in a public speech. You need to look a certain way. You need to talk a certain way. You need to have people who help you with the makeup. You need to have, your camera people. They might be wanting for more cash, and you might be getting the fact that you will not be sustaining yourself with the current pricing. You need to up raising standards, okay? Or understanding that to give Venus, I must also receive, which is very much Venus. And there's Jupiter, the act of giving, sitting pretty in your 11th house. So to be kind and giving, I need to materially sustain it, because I want to give materially. Let's say I want to give a subsidized reading. If you have model like me, subsidized reading for every paid reading, I'm gonna have to sustain that, not by sacrifice, because I need to sustain my glow. What I make money from is how I shine, how I glow. Okay? Here you glow, the shine in your eyes, particularly because Venus is beauty and Sun rules the eyes, one of the eyes. So you need to have shiny eyes. If you don't make enough money, how can you have shiny eyes? Because you don't travel enough, because you don't party enough, because you don't feel like you reign, literally. So those are things you might be acting upon. So it could be your pricing, your relationships with siblings, if they work with you. It can be even the image of your product. Okay, if you're performing artist, people always expect you to have autobiography, to have an album, to have a clothing line, to have a perfume line, and all that needs to be sustained. It needs to be glorious. With Leo, you have to be, it doesn't matter what your relationship is to royalty, you need to have a little bit of royalty in order to have some income. You make money by being a queen or a king. Okay, so there we got on how spending and making money are related. Okay, we spend a lot to make even more, and we invest in ourselves, as well as kind of have a sense of detachment from the makeup I put on to earn my skill. Okay, and who I am. Okay, so your self-value. I am worthy even if I'm not royal. I'm worthy even if I don't have the money to put into my business. I'm worthy even if I can't, do a subsidized reading for everyone. I can only do one for one product, and I need to have a very high bar for my pricing if I do so. I'm worthy even when I'm not, shining and glowing and having my life all put together. So all of those things, and now you're acting on them. So, Ascendant Leo, this is very much your first house and second house. So not unlike Ascendant Cancer, but here it is even closer, because now your appearance one-on-one, which is your ascendant, is at the spotlight. And the way you appear one-on-one, which is your ascendant, what people see when they meet you, not the 10th house, how you meet a person to person, this is what you're going to make your money from. So you think about every person, when you open your eyes, every person that you talk to is a prospective client, is prospective income. You need to shine, okay? And you got that, or at least now when the sun is in Virgo. Later the sun is going to be in Libra. It's going to be your siblings and your neighbors, and then, you know, your home life and so on and so forth. But now what you make money from and what you spend money on has to do with the people that you meet, and has every day, not in the merit of the third house, kind of like siblings and neighbors, but everyone you meet. It could be your boss, it could be, you know, whoever. And this is because your ascendant rules who you are to those who just meet you. And who are the people who just meet you? Okay? It's not the people that you show up in a conference of while you publicly speak. It's the people that you go, when you go in conference, you don't win conference by the stage. You win the conference by having the meals with people. You win the conference by having one-on-one conversation. You know, if you've been to any kind of competitive stuff like, you know, Model UN or whatnot, you know that it's not one on the public speaking. Okay? It's not a Beyonce show, and even Beyonce. Okay? She makes sure she sees each and every one of the fans, which is incredibly difficult. But for you, right now, every single person who just sees you, your first impression is going to earn you money, or, you know, or spend you money. And Mercury can also rule litigation, okay? But it's not something I would take, you know, serious. It's a transit. It's something, yeah, it's not something that unless you have other signification in your chart, I wouldn't be terrified from this. It just means that if you want to make your income, now you act on who you are, and it's not who you are when you turn the camera on for YouTube. It's who you are as you speak with people, okay? And it can also be when you turn the camera on, but this is more like consultation, like I'm speaking with this person, let's say a Zoom conversation. That is in the way that it is right now. So it's your appearance. It could be your fitness. So you're kind of spending money on your fitness habits, you know, exercise. And again, something is going to support your voice. Something is going to support your vision. To some extent also your liver and your heart. Okay, your heart health. So you're doing those things, you've changed your values, you've changed your ideas, and now it's time to apply and see if it works. Some of it won't work, okay? I must warn you, it's Mercury, where the sun is retrograde. Some of it you're trying and you're going to have to redo. Ascendant Virgo. Venus is going direct in your 12th house. So, the 12th house is a very interesting place. It is the jail, the hospital, the exile, the retreat, and the bedroom. Okay? Make what you want of it. But you may have been redecorating your bedroom in the best of cases. And wherever you're sleeping on, now you're applying corrections. Or wherever you're sleeping with, you know, because the ruler is in your 4th house. And so matters of your 12th could gain you losses, unfortunately, but also you may understand that there are certain your values as to your intimate or your bedroom values, okay? And bedroom, I don't just mean sex, I mean intimacy. It can be the things that you have addictions, the things that you didn't know, the things that were hidden from even you. This is why it's also the house of hidden enemies, okay? Because like you haven't seen it. What is the hidden enemy? And hidden enemy comes sometimes as a secret admirer. And they're like, when are you going to notice me? When are you going to notice me? You don't notice them. You don't see them. They're on your blind spot. And you're like, I hate this person. They're so snobbish. They're so... It's nothing. You don't see them. Okay? If they are very mature, then they understand that, you know, if they are an astrologer, say, oh, okay, maybe I could be probably in the 12th house. I see something they don't see. I will not take it against them because I wouldn't want people to do it for me. But if they're not so evolved and not so mature, they can become frustrated, feel unseen, especially with Leo, they can feel unseen, okay? But now with the sun in your 1st, they show up. those, whether it's people, patterns, stuff show up for you to deal with, and you're going to have to have a trial and error with your communication. Okay, somebody shows up and feels unseen by you. How do you show them that, hey, I'm seeing now a part of you, there are certain segments of you that I cannot see because they're sitting on my blind spot. This is mine. You're absolutely not to blame. Okay, this is one approach that for some people can be excellent. So you're giving them attention and appreciation, you're taking ownership and responsibility, all the while setting boundaries. Some things might be different. Okay, maybe you're dealing with a person who is not in a level of either maturity or accessibility to resources of tending to things and even knowing what happens, and they behave narcissistically with you, and so you have to gray rock, or you have to actually not give attention, actually give ignorance, and you're kind of thinking what to do. Mercury retrograde is when you're dealing with it, but now the things of the 12th, they show up for you. Things that can do for remedy. First thing, Venus Leo. So Venus Leo, you could be donating. Think about singers, performances, people who are doing public performance with the emphasis on aesthetics and beauty, or something you have to do like a femininity, or women's values, or trans women. Can also work with with Uranus there, or queerness, performance, queer performance, queer music. Spend money there. Invest money there in donation. Invest. This is kind of like the money that you put, or the giving that you give, without expecting anything in return, but the sense of knowing that you did something good. Okay, you might not even get appreciation, because if it's like an artist, and maybe they are growing and you're just supported their art, but this is donation that you give. That can be useful, because 12th house is also kind of like the bedroom and the jail and the this and the that. It's always good to find a particular, I know, for example, a lot of people who survived human trafficking or forced sex work, I know that there is no difference. I'm saying that because okay. Anyway, so donating directly to these people can be very beneficial, and a lot of them like to create stuff. After I've been Me Too veteran in academia, I've met so many. 2017, the discourse about should we delegalize like sex work or whatnot, stuff like that. And I met so many women who are survivors of forced sex work, and they thrived, or women even that were in sex work and demanded for that to be left so that they can continue to work. And they all like to create something artistic, something even with flowers or with crystals or even with leather and jewelries and stuff. So you could be buying from such men and women. You could be kind of like investing money in the businesses of people who got out of there, or investing money assisting people who don't want to be sex worker to have a business, especially if it's performative arts, if it's something creative. Then that can be a great 12th house remedy. You're dedicated to that. This can assist you just by doing that. This can assist you to see in clarity the thing that's coming up for you. And Mercury also rules money, it rules trade. So if you invest in this, you're basically assisting in alleviating a part of the things that both cause and the effect of human trafficking and also child trafficking by this. Because if these are the mothers and they can sustain themselves, then the children are not being taken, and this is not becoming an intergenerational thing where children are being trafficked. Okay, so this is great house remedy, 12th house remedy in general, but 12th house remedy for you in particular. And that is another thing you can donate your money to, or your resources to. Another thing you can do is to decorate your bedroom. Fix your bedroom, clean your bed. You might have already been doing that. And this is not instead of donation, it's kind of like beside, or if you cannot afford donation, or you can, have kind of like a sleep hygiene, tending, beautifying your bedroom, and so on and so forth. Or you can also have some art or some altar that is okay to keep in your bedroom, or have, something like this. So that is another thing that is good. It's kind of like, let's take a look at what's inside me. What are my sexual fantasies? How's my bedroom looking? I know mine needs a remake. Now I have Pluto entering there. Um, so, but all these things, maybe you need a sense of world to bring the sunshine into your room, because that is already affecting your physical health. It's affecting your body. Maybe you need sunlight. Okay, maybe you don't have a window, so you can manifest. Okay, you can manifest, and yeah, kind of like do something about it, tend to it, and you have a bit of a trial and error until you sort it out. And your home environment is very much, you know, is very much making a difference. So having more sunlight in your bedroom will definitely help with the clarity. Ascendant. And this, yes, it can also be, of course, I want to say something, because this can also be a mental health. So sunlight is very important for you, and you might see things more in clarity. What do you think about crazy people? Who do you think is crazy? What do you think about crazy people? Because you might have a bit of something being kind of revolved against you. Okay. Also, if you, for example, have been escaping from abusive relationship, okay, and you say this is narcissistic person, this is this, this is that, then they might be flipping it over you, saying you are borderline. Now you must understand, if you were called borderline and you say, you know what, I understand, maybe I'm borderline. If I'm borderline, then by the books you must be narcissistic, because borderline is attracted to narcissistic people. This is one thing. And even that, you let it go at a certain case, you keep the red flags, but you let go of the tagging, of the personality tagging, especially with the Rahu in Aries here, okay? You tag the behavior, not the person. And the second thing is, if you were not called, you were not made crazy, okay? You were not made crazy, you will not, and you say, well, this person is crazy. Okay, my ex is crazy, my this is crazy, or this person is crazy. We have very good, valid reasons to believe this way. But that can a bit flip on you. Or maybe you said they need to go to psychiatry, they need to go to this, and now it flipped on you. Somebody maybe hospitalizes you or tries to do so, and you don't know what it is. They were horrible, I didn't do anything wrong. And sometimes all you need to do is to add a bit of light into the situation, and remove the psychiatric tagging from people, okay? This would give you great light, great soul, thingy, aura, and it will assist in your physical health, especially with Sun in Virgo, regarding to any supplements you take, even herbs or supplements or biochemistry. If you're prescribed beta blockers, those things kill people, okay? And you might be prescribed for your heart as well as your psychological or psychic condition, okay? And if you have any problem like this, remove psychiatrically tagging people from your life. Instead, set boundaries to behaviors and to people without tagging them, okay? This will very much alleviate this, and then you can return to connection with your body and to purging what's not needed, if it's not good medication and so on and so forth. So, or to identify what herbs are good for you, what medication is good for you, which is hardly being marketed, but yeah. Ascendant Libra. Ascendant Libra, this is happening in your 11th house with the ruler in your 12th. Now, remember what I said to the previous ascendant about tagging people. The 11th house is our goals and dreams. The 11th house is all. Okay, if we do crowdfunding, these are the people that donate us. And you can have an agenda and you can be utmost right. But the 12th house, what does it rule? It rules the bedroom. Okay, so if you kink shame someone, okay, it's very okay to set clear sexual boundaries. It is not okay to kink shame, and sometimes we're not aware. Okay, sometimes we say, oh, this person is, let's say, sadistic. Okay, and they can be offender. Okay, non-consensual, but there are people who have sadistic kinks, and you don't want to shame. They say, oh, this person is sadistic. I don't mean this in a kink way. Now, okay, you've basically seen the people in the 12th. It's like, oh, I see that there is such kink, but this person was not meaning it in this way, and I'm not here to shame people with such kink. I'm just saying that when that is not done safely, consensually, and so on, so on, so, then this is a problem. This is what I've been through. Okay? Now you're speaking with clarity without a kink shaming. And the other risk of the 12th is psychiatric tagging, because this is also the hospital, the mental hospital. And so even if you went out of, let's say, narcissistic abuse, what they call narcissistic abuse, then in 2023, well, it is already okay to say, I've been gaslighted, there's narcissism, and so on. So it's even better for you, because there are people that are growing and understanding radical acceptance and more pathways to self-recognition, and more awareness of people who have been misdiagnosed, whether it's borderline, as antisocial, as sociopath, and they were just saying no to violence, okay? Then to basically pinpoint the behavior, whether it's gaslighting, whether it's hoovering, whether it's something that's like communication that was not in alignment with your values, or behavior is not in alignment with your values, financial behavior is not in alignment with your values, and set boundaries to that, or if you have like an agenda, talk about that, and not psychiatrically tag or going to this psychiatric war of I'm this, I'm that, okay? Again, if you were called borderline and were hospitalized because of that, then this is actually a good time to, instead of saying they should have hospitalized them and not me, how about, wouldn't it be better if we both have our own housing, our own food, our own accessibility to maintain our image? Okay, that's the talk. Okay, you got, you got the Libra ascendant. You know how to do it right? You know how to make yourself look good. Just make sure you're not doing this on the account of somebody else, because that could land you up in jail, hospital, loss, addiction, public scandal, being exposed in ways that undermine everything that you're trying to do in your goals. Okay? So, no psychiatric tagging, no kink shaming, not spreading misconceptions about homeless people, it's very much the 12th, refugees, very much the 12th, they could be in exile, okay? People who deal with addictions, okay, with addictions to drug. When I was in between houses in Netherlands, one of the organizations that was coming to try and assist us was supportive of legalizing hard drugs in Netherlands. And I was like, I'm privileged, as I was saying, I'm privileged not to have like a drug addiction. But it was kind of difficult for me as an Israeli to kind of get what's going on. And then I realized that most of the people who are addicted are either addicted to prescribed drugs, or the accessibility to drugs is kind of to try to maintain the pressures of their life. And they actually are very competent people, very, high-performing people even, and they try to maintain it, and they are usually the people that everyone leans on. And I'm like, whoa, I did not know that this is, that I did not think about, it's not that I had an image, but we just really don't know about people who deal with addiction. And you much rather kind of open your mind and not, and keep these tags. And Virgo, you could be, maybe certain sexual behaviors have to do with being abused as a child, or not assuming that every person was abused as a child. It's like, all those kind of combinations that you want to avoid, so that you want, flip your agendas over and kind of outdo yourself. It's a learning process. You can't see everything. And again, 12th house charity is what I would recommend. And in your case, it can be authors and people that write about their experiences in jail, hospital, a child that was kidnapped from, the global welfare, people who are survivors of sex trafficking and sex trade, all those combinations. Okay, people who are addicted to prescribed drugs, people who tried drugs like even psychedelics, and they did not know how to do it right, and maybe they don't fit to do it right. Okay, I was watching a Terence McKenna video about psilocybin, with Saturn retrograde in my first, and I was thinking, oh my God, what you need to get the good thing out of the drug is such resilience and such dedication, that if you're just looking, for relief, it's not the right drug for you. Okay? It's not that it's not good. You can have excellent experiences, but it's just you have to have compatibility. You might be learning about these things. So to put your money there, to assist people, spreading information about addiction from first-hand experience, that can be a great 12th house charity for you. People before funds. Okay, remember that, because they're gonna show you. Okay, if you're putting the money in the wrong place, you're gonna be shown. But I want to save you the experience, because those are 12th house things. Much better for you to do people before funds, and that's all I'm gonna say about it. Ascendant Scorpio. So Ascendant Scorpio, Venus is stationing direct in your 10th house, with the ruler in your 11th. So finally, your public image is about to be restored, but there's still things to go over in terms of editing and communicating the little details. Okay, you're about to restore your public image. You're about to relaunch yourself. It can be you getting a promotion, your boss, new boss, you becoming the boss, new relationship with the boss, you're being sent to a certain conference, or you basically going through a makeover in your image. Finally, Venus releases its grip from your 10th house. You really have been considering, how do you show yourself publicly? How do you present yourself, whether it's to your bosses or as a boss, maybe or as a parent as well, or with your parents. And now what is left is to take care of those little details, like you're gonna launch yourself publicly or change your image publicly, but maybe there are some pictures you need to edit. Maybe you have been doing a brand shooting and it needs editing or finalizing or filters. It can be stuff as simple as that, because that's your visibility on the line, and your visibility as a brand needs to be on par with your authentic values. Okay, because Venus rules your 12th house, so you have this Venus in your 11th ruling your 12th, then again tending to the 12th, because Venus is there. Okay, your bedroom is now in the public. I have it permanent if you consider that Uranus ruling Aquarius, and so my card of enlightenment is radical acceptance and exposure, including of things like my kinks, my problem with sexuality. You don't have to be anywhere near as radical, but what you can do is basically redesign your bedroom. Again, any donation to people that were in the public sphere, public people that are either, in your case, I would prefer people who are, again, in sex work not by choice. Okay, people who got out of being in sex work not by choice. Okay, while you can be thinking about breaking the stigma around sex work, it's not bad, but the danger is that you will erase the people who are not by choice, okay, in this industry, And that can be bringing up people who feel unseen, and they try to probe into you and see why did you choose these people over these people. So you want to acknowledge kind of both things. Libra is about balance. And so you might be choosing to put your money where people that, let's say, expose their experience as being, I don't know, a feminist sex work, as well as people that expose their experience of being abused and being put into trafficking and so on and so forth, and kind of like grew out of it. That's ridiculous, but you get what I'm saying. Those are places where you want to put your money too. Anything that has to do with addiction, and so addiction in relationships, whether it's unhealthy relationship, you want to be putting your resources with these people, assisting them, and perhaps assisting in recovering their public image, or the stigma around them, and then kind of like really really listening, because it's in your blind spot. You don't really know what these people are dealing with, and so you can alleviate a lot of the difficulties where the ruler of your 12th is up there in your tent. Even when she is direct, it can simply mean that your hidden enemies are not just acting out, huh? And because the 12th is also the ruler of the 12th, also the ruler of your 7th, then it can be a business partner, it can be a spouse, that maybe had secret affair and now things are. And so, especially in the worst cases, your spouse has been a Me Too offender, okay? And this is in the worst cases, and you're kind of like having a don't call Tyrone, and then Tyrone is like, Me Too veteran. So, that is like in the worst cases. And another case is just that kind of like they're just things that you don't take into consideration and you didn't know. But it can definitely be that there's something of your 7th and something of your 12th is coming up. So it can be the bedroom habits of your partner. If your partner, I'm sorry, but it's true. If your partner is kind of like, maybe you're having you're in a public sphere with your partner, and your partner is kind of like, maybe it's kind of like me, because I am, with my public agendas, I'm also quite of an open book, and your partner is kind of an open book. It's like, I had this wonderful, weekend with my spouse, and your spouse is right next to you, and they're like, yeah, I really enjoyed, the that and that thing that was there, and you're like, your spouse is like, the what? Okay, and you are the spouse. So that is something that can happen. It can be something silly, something that's a bit of an embarrassment, some exposure you weren't ready to. You can very much alleviate this, or even to support people that, let's say, had a hidden affair, or maybe didn't know about it, or even people who are spouses to people who had a hidden affair. Kind of like assist them, or kind of like support them and whatnot. So yes, this can be your case. Anything more of the 12th, like I said, psychiatric tagging, out of the question for you. You could really be demoted now. Like Venus direct can absolutely be your demotion rather than your promotion if the 12th is not being tended to. And also, Ketu is in the 12th house. Ketu in the 12th house means you're tending more to your physical health, you're purging mental health. So, for you, it can actually be through crisis. Let's say you say, oh, that, the crazy psychotic bitch that my wife was cheating with, and that crazy psychotic bitch is survivor of child trafficking that has no dual experiences and learned how to do that with witchcraft, and she didn't know he's married or she's married. Okay, so she was trying to protect her energy. So that can be, or that can actually be where you tend to the 12th, you address it, where you don't psychiatrically tag people, and you gotta be emotional about it. I mean, of course, if something's hidden for you, and relational. Okay, it's Venus. Relation has money or relation, or in this case, it's money and relation. Okay, but the thing is, that if you do it right, if you don't tag the person, or if you don't hurt the image of your hidden enemy, this is for you. If you don't not outshine, demote the shine or hurt the image of the person that is your hidden enemy, what's going to happen instead is that anything that is addiction, that is bothering you in you and or your partner, is going to be purged around this eclipse cycle, not through crisis. Okay? And so this Venus is going to be kind of like, you think about when Beyonce had this affair with Jay-Z. And then she had her own struggle. But then she came out in 2015 with Foundations and a whole album. Her husband came with the whole album. She saved his company. Yeah, I'm not saying good or bad. Maybe she should have needed to divorce. I don't know. But the thing is that she came out and she was singing, and you could understand, you could feel she was vulnerable, she was exposed, she was authentic in the public eye. And this was the most private couple of Hollywood, okay? That made her career boom. Nobody could ignore Beyonce. Okay? When she was singing Resentment on the stage with all the, even the last of the non-monogamous and polyamorous people could feel her heart, her pain, her rage, and she was authentically exposed, vulnerable, rich, money-making, having good sex, being appreciated, having a great butt, and later getting pregnant with twins. Okay, so not saying this solves all her relationship problems, but I definitely am saying that you could have a boost to your 10th from being authentic about the 12th that you don't want to miss out on. Because what's happening at the 12th is in the 12th. You can make everybody crazy, or you can address what's inside you and put it in the 10th. And this is a very lucrative chance for making a comeback, powerful, vulnerable, and appreciated and admired and respected, okay? Now, because Mercury is in the 11th, it does mean that you're going to have to go, and there will be some trial and error about the communication. And perhaps what I just said to you gives you a bit of the words, Mercury, that you need to change to have your message coming across without creating an enemy. Okay? So, Ascendant Sagittarius. Ascendant Sagittarius, Leo, is in your 9th house with the ruler in your 10th. So you could be finishing a degree and starting to be a lecturer, but then there are some, the words and things to address and so on and so on, contracts and so on and so forth. You could be going on a trip and finding yourself getting a promotion. Okay? Libra is your 11th. Yes, the ruler of your 12th is in your 11th. Listen to my other signs for, listen to Ascendant Libra and to Ascendant Virgo if you want the 12th thingy. Is just keep in mind that your 12th is ruled by Scorpio, and Scorpio is about, psychological stuff. I will do a separate 12th house video. Anyway, for you, some good news, okay? Maybe you're traveling and finding yourself in a promotion, new job position. Maybe you are finishing a degree and then you're teaching. You're getting an upgrade as a result of this Venus. Very good. Your worldview is upgrading. You change the way you see the world, and then you get a promotion. Your relationship with your mother, your father becomes improving. Maybe you as a parent, or you becoming a parent by the merit of your 10th being triggered. Okay, so you're receiving a promotion, getting along better with your boss, but then still there's some communication to be sorted out, to be addressed. You could be becoming a boss and you feel like, oh, these employees, they're like my children, and issues between you and your mother or father come up and you need to change your communication style. Or you kind of have a mishap in your communication, so you need to change your wording, or you need to change, some technology But all in all, or it could be you're going to another country and then you need to change, like your phone or something, like buy a SIM card, and and then you have to redo it because you need a better deal when Mercury goes direct. All of that is okay for you. I find it incredibly positive. Yes, the ruler of your ascendant is going to go retrograde in a couple of hours. Um, so you're going to be keeping to think, but this Venus direct is releases your ninth house of worldview, teachings, you as a student, and traveling, and kind of what a relief, okay? And promoting your career, your relationship with your parents, one of your parents, you as a boss, you as a parent, and your public image is, yes, there are still things you might be, going over your brand shooting, or maybe you're doing, travel vlogs and you have to edit them. But all in all, I find that to be great, unless, of course, you have like horrid significations that, kind of dim it down. But I'm all in all less worried about you in general. Ascendant Capricorn. Leo is in your 8th house with the ruler in your 9th. My darling, if you have been trying to allocate money for traveling, okay, now you're more worried about your travel insurance, Mercury, than what will my trips look like? How will I travel? Where will I travel to? Okay, same if you've been trying to allocate money for your higher studies. Where will I get my grant for here is the grant, darling. You just need to fix this paper and this picture, bring in your passport picture, bring in your this, or bring in this document, and I have to find the document. I have to find the birth certificate, okay? I have this thing with the birth certificate. Oh my God. But the prices is in it, this is something else. But you have to find your birth certificate, and then you're kind of like, my birth certificate, what? And then you tend to that. It's like, you know what? Now that I got my birth certificate, let's schedule a reading with Shirley. Okay, kind of a self-promotion there. Let's schedule a reading with Shirley. And then you get an astrological reading out of it. But this is already Mercury retrograde. Now is more, you are acting on your shared budget with a partner. Okay, maybe you're gonna say, my darling, I'm studying my degree. I'm going to this trip. You can come with me, you can not come with me. This is our shared assets. I get half of our shared assets. This is what I'm allocating the money for. This is it. Okay, and then you have to communicate it a bit, but it can be like this. Okay, it can be something like this. You have something changing, or maybe you are following a new spiritual practice, like, I want to travel to, I don't know, I want to travel to Mecca. You say to your partner, I want to travel to Mecca. Your partner like, but you're Jewish. It's like, I don't care. I want to travel to Mecca. Okay? I've never been there. It should be so beautiful. And it could be something like that. Again, about you, surprisingly enough, I am less worried. And I'm saying surprisingly enough because this is your 8th house. The retrograde was more the issue. The retrograde, maybe something has been milking your funds. I know I'm on the 5th house of my Capricorn ascendant parents, and they be buying sweets whenever I go. But then, kind of like there was for the holidays, instead of buying the talisman that I wanted, I bought some food, and I bought even some for myself. That was very kind of like good and nourishing. So that was how it expressed to them. And for you, it's kind of like, who is that Venus person? Okay, this can be your child, your romantic partner that kind of said, you know what, I'm going to take you on a vacation. If anything is healthy in a relationship, you might be paying back for some of the attention and the resource that you've been giving them. And you may get money from your partner to travel. Oh, maybe I can, now I'm thinking maybe I can somehow make money in some way. So if you order readings with me, then maybe I can afford my parent traveling. So yeah, so this is very, or maybe your partner tells you, you know what, I'm going to help you with your studies. that can be good. If all is healthy in the relationship and then no like significant power issues there, then go for it. It's also very good reading. I like this reading. You're acting on it. It's just the Venus getting direct thingy, okay? Ascendant Aquarius. Venus is in your 7th house. So, whoever you had to break up from by now, well, let's say the people you broke up with, okay? Now maybe you have to rethink if this was like, divorce or separation. Now you have to think your mutual resources and energies. Maybe you have to even separate your energies from each other. And your auras and kind of like learning to be in your own aura and stuff like that. And sometimes it can be your actual resources. Maybe you have shared investments and you kind of have to kind of be fair. Sometimes it's 50-50. Sometimes you want to be kind to whoever needs the money more and kind of like be kind on the separation. Kindness is going to serve you very well. On the other hand, it can be that now as Venus is going direct, you are cementing a certain commitment. And again, well, marriage is not advised. To the people with ascendant Aquarius that are like, marriage in... Some people do marry in Venus shade, Venus retrograde. I'm like, okay, if that's how you feel. But I would still recommend, if you have to get married, if you have to establish commitment, very much at least try the remedy of setting renewed vows early on. But the best election that you can find, so consult an electional astrologer. I'm not an electional astrologer, okay, but you can consult one. I know Christopher Warnock is an electional astrologer. It's not just Ellen Talisman. I think he still offers these services. Might not be cheap, but this is something you do once in your life, and you definitely want to go for it and to make sure you're doing renewed vows in a significant date so you can have a big time stamp that's very benefic to your connection if this is it, because you could be renewing commitments, renewing vows, meeting new partners, and so on and so forth, that you have. But because the sun is in your 8th, your relationship are still going to instigate the issue of whether it's prenuptials and you're just having this prenuptial thingy, then you're going to have to work through things and allow the leeway for things to change and transform, because Mercury is going to go direct. Some things you want to go over. Okay, I do accept people like Astro Victor, who says, I'm so sick of people not signing contracts during Mercury retrograde. It's like, what do you think, the whole cell phones will be sold for the entire Mercury retrograde? And I'm like, it can be. Consumerism has its limit too. But also, sometimes we just want to go for it. But we also want to leave a place for leeway. I have to admit, to contrast to Victor a little bit, if I may, I do have to admit that yes, Mercury retrograde in Virgo is very strong, but it also means that one detail, Virgo, can change the entire picture. So, especially if you're signing prenuptial, divorce agreement, marriage agreement, anything agreementy with a significant other, business or otherwise, a marriage, because Mercury is in Virgo, then you're going to be dredging up some details that one detail is going to change the whole picture. It's even a bigger problem in Virgo. Okay, so yes, Mercury is very strong, but it is even a bigger problem in Virgo. Okay, so what I want to say is that the very act of fact checking and say, oh, I'll just go over it even more, it is just this ability. And as a person who did editing, okay, I wouldn't do it today, but I did it and I was very good at it. It was a Saturn, I think it was Saturn Fidaria for me. I was very diligent and spotting everything. After you've seen a document a couple of times, and even if you had someone to check facts, there is a great chance that as many people as will check this, there will still be one detail that changes the whole picture. So I want you to make sure that you maintain a leeway to get out of this contract, so much as get out of this contract um, in the time that Mercury goes direct and onwards. Okay, especially those type of contracts, you definitely want to do it. Maybe you want to reschedule talking about this contract. Okay, something like that can work for you. So that is something that I do have to say. In general, Venus is going to alleviate your seventh house, but it's not going to solve the entire issue because now you have it in your eighth. Definitely, if there are anything of like traumas and all that, transformation-y stuff, of kind of like intergenerational stuff that you have been having, it's definitely going to pop out so that you will tend to it. So after Mercury is direct and Venus is direct, and then Jupiter will be direct, you'll be pretty much done with a lot of the significant difficulties that you have in your seventh. It's not all sorted out, but there is a sense of a relief, and there probably is a sense of either renewed vows or taking a cementing the commitment. Because Venus is in your seventh, yes, Uranus is in Venus sign, but and this Venus is ruling Ketu, but it might bring even more cementing of commitments than breakups. I could be wrong, but it is Venus in your seventh house, okay? Ruling Ketu with Uranus, it's Venus in your seventh house. Venus in a seventh house, especially if you're like a cisgender man looking for a cisgender woman, and the woman is traditionally your spouse. It's if you have other significations, at least a couple of them, then you could be meeting someone, okay? And so because Venus is also ruling Ketu, I can't help but think about Lada Duncheva's third marriage, where both she and her husband was eclipsed on his sun. I don't remember what was her moon, probably. No? I don't remember. But the thing is that it was both on both eclipses, and she talks about it publicly. It's not like, just make sure it's not Yellow Pages, it's astrology. And the thing is that he was divorcing, she was divorcing. They both understood the lesson of the previous divorces, and this is her third marriage, and she's still married, and she's all in all very satisfied with her marriage. And it can be such a case for you if you have other significations, okay? So they were divorced and married around eclipses, but it means that one thing is taken away from you, and for you, Libra is the ninth house, but Venus is ruling, relationships. So one thing is taken away from you, and especially around eclipses, because your sun in the seventh is a luminary in the seventh. Eclipses affect your relationships a lot. And then some new thing is kind of making place for the new. And this Venus symbolizes both the separation from the old, but also the coming in of the new. I would not rule that out. So, yeah, those are the things that I can say. And we already talked about Pisces ascendant, and we're done. So this is Venus direct for you. Enjoy the while both Venus and Jupiter, the two great benefics, the greater and the lesser benefics are benefic and direct. And really take a good, have a good time with this one. Let's take a look at our, we have a good time. It's a soul. It's basically a Jupiter soul, and it kind of makes sense. So I can definitely release this episode as the ascendant is on my Mercury. Now, I suggest my books are open. How do we do that? So basically, I give you a reading. I can give you a great natal reading, upcoming year reading. I take a look at perfections. I take a look at transits, of course. I take a look at where your outer planets to inner planets. This is my signature reading. Okay, this is kind of like my shine zone. And if and only if you have an exact birth time, I can look at some zodiacal releasing for you from basic lots. Okay, kind of like the lot of fortune, the lot of Eros, not Aries. Aries is a planet. Oh, it's because I have to say Aries is a planet. Aries is a planet. When I say outer planets to inner planets, Aries is a planet. Okay, just saying. A lot of Eros is in Aries for me. Anyway, that was very confusing sentence. A lot of spirit, which is how you respond to what's happening to you, and kind of like the lot of fortune and the other lots. It's kind of like, what can I do about it? Well, this is what you can do about it. So, yes, but you have to have a really exact birth time because I don't know how to give rectification. And there we come to what I want in return. So basically, I give you a reading. You buy me a course of my choice, like the rectification of Peter Watson and Chris Brennan. Yeah, I have some other on wish list. You buy me Christopher Warnock Talisman. So it's like a course or a talisman by Christopher Warnock. I know I definitely want algal bronze. Okay, so that's a definite. Venus is now when she's direct. It's Venus Three Graces is also a possibility. It's the best talismans for me. Planetary is Venus. Mars, Moon. I would begin with the benefics, like not Mars just yet, but definitely kind of the crab moon can absolutely be okay. So one of those, they're very expensive, and I live in Israel. But the reading that they give to you, the grand reading, it means you come to me with your questions, and as long as it's within 2 to 3 hours, okay, 2 to 3 hours. I'm not saying I can't do more than that. And sometimes, like you're going to be the one who's saying I need to go. But as long as it's kind of like within that, so it's like a whole 8-hour shift, then I pretty much don't look at the clock, which says that you're getting 2-3 consultations in one consultation. You can ask me about everything and anything of it, as long as we are both hydrated and well fed and nourished, and can't dedicate the time to it. And so all I ask of you to get this very deep, concentrated, consultation that usually is not offered by any astrologer. Okay, astrologers take hour reading, and may take 90 minutes reading. You hardly hear of astrologers that are going to say, okay, I'm not going to look at the clock. Okay, I'm one of them. And not only that, I'm also a rather flexible person. So I am trauma informed in a very particular way. I'm trauma informed in terms of schedule. Okay, that means if you're neurodivergent, if you find it difficult to schedule, I still have Uranus in my third house. This is an attempt to schedule. It means that I might have to cancel, you might have to cancel. I'm not going to ask you to buy me a talisman if you cancel, because the great thing about this is that you're paying for my service, not just for my time. And so if I give you service, you give me a talisman, and because it's talisman that you give me or a course that you give me, then it's not like I'm missing out like a person who has to pay the rent only from this would miss out. So I don't have to hold you accountable to your schedule, which means I'm neurodivergent friendly in that particular sense. And that is important to say about me. Even though I'm recovering from trauma, I cannot say and attest that I'm purely trauma informed when it comes to giving the consultation itself. That means that I still might say things that trigger you. I still might address things in certain ways. I don't attempt to be a psychologist. I am an astrologer. Okay? An astrologer that you meet once in 6 months, a year, tops. Okay, at least for now, this is what I give. And you have like this grand reading, you have this realization about your life. I'm not your life coach, your psychologist, your mommy, your daddy. I'm giving you information, and and I'm Aries Mercury, so I'm talkative. And when you talk, I listen because I look to solve a problem. You also have to understand this. It's not that I'm not a It's not, let's say, it's not that I don't want to be this good listener, but I also market myself for what I give, not for what I do not give. So, those are things that are possibility. If you want a shorter reading, you say, shall I still want a reading with you? I don't have $350 on me to buy you, the Algol talisman that you want. I don't have, I don't know how much is it, $400 for the rectification course that you want, but I still want some service, some personal reading. Kind of, like how you do this forecast, and I kind of feel that I can get value from you. There's not a lot. There's not all that much that I can give. I can give something, but it's not in these sums. It's no problem. I also have other desires. So Christopher Chow has a Venus in Pisces talisman that it's an oil, okay, kind of like 10 milliliter or half an ounce oil. And with the shipping to Israel, I think it's still $20 shipping to Israel. It's going to be something like $70 or $80. And we can have kind of like, we can schedule a half an hour, but it can definitely be a bit more, not more than an hour. Again, I'm going to still be flexible with you because this is a part of who I am. And I know that I also have a lot to say. So that is something that is already very significantly cheap relative to these types of consultations. There, it is best to come, let's say, with one question. But let's say you have two particular questions, and you're going to be like kind of like two readings, but you want to integrate into one. And it's not like, the grand reading where you want to know all about your natal chart or everything about the upcoming year or whatnot. It's very specific questions, not horary. I'm not the go. If you want horary, a person that I would recommend is Angelita Biscotti. If she still opens for readings, she's amazing at all the things that you need, where there is trauma informed, BIPOC informed, LGBTQ informed, all those things that albeit my weird gender, still not really swimming in. She's amazing for that. So horaries is kind of like very good channel for her, especially if you don't have birth time. So not horaries, but specific questions, okay? And the question that is coming up for you is very much perfected. So let's say, let's take this chart, for example. And in this chart, Uranus is retrograde in the second house. You might be thinking your income or your value, or, how confident you are in yourself, or what do you, like your expenditure. I'm not the consultant, economical consultant, but you kind of like rethinking, those things. And you come to me and you say, Shirley, I've been thinking there are two skills that I want to study, but this skill, I'm kind of having a rethought. I want to do something that my voice is a revolutionary voice, and I don't know how to express this. Maybe we can do outer planet to inner planet. Maybe you can tell me the role of Uranus, and is it like, do you think it is like a passing thing, or do you think it's something that I can cement for this? And we can look at your chart. So for this chart, Venus is ruling Uranus, and she is in her fifth house. Okay, so you could basically be making money from your hobby, and you can have some, kind of a non-conventional expression or sense of style. And you're rethinking that, and you're kind of like rethinking the revolution. And your income has to do with a creative project that you can, that you make. So there may be certain erotic attraction that is associated with it, and it can kind of help you sift and sort, kind of like, okay, after, let's say we take the partner out of the equation, what are you left with that you would absolutely preserve from this connection, even if it was a one-night stand, which it probably wasn't with the fixed Leo, but those things. And as we go through this, we hear Uranus is, Placidus is in your first even, so it's even more important. As we go through this, we do a little bit of outer planet to inner planet, but we focus on this Uranus and Venus. We focus on everything that's in there. So what's in Cancer is the moon here, what's in Pisces, we have Saturn and Neptune, and we kind of see how does that relate, and I also get information from you. And we just sort this thing out, okay? Not going to get into what we don't need to get. This is the type of readings that you can come to me to. And so like the Venus in Pisces by Christopher Chow, the algal oil, if there's any left for it, by Sphere and Sundry. Talk to me if you want to do that. Talk to me in general, but if you want to do that, because for the algal oil there is divination that they are doing, and if they decide that it's, you know, divinely guided to sell this to me, then they sell this. If not, anything Venus is great, so it can be Venus Libra, Venus Taurus, Venus Pisces from Sphere and Sundry. Absolutely, if you get like a Venus, even if it's a Venus, you know, Venus Fomalhaut or Venus Pisces by Sphere and Sundry and Venus Pisces by Christopher Chow, it's okay. Okay, I'm not going to be, it's not going to be a problem. So those talismans are very much desired. And the Spirit Sundry is going to cost you a bit more because, yeah, with the shipping to Israel, it's about $100, up to $120. So that is something that can be a possibility. I'm not going to ask you for the moon from Sphere and Sundry because it has like different properties and values. Like it acts a bit differently, and it's not a beginner's talisman. So yeah, that is how you can get a reading with me. And then how do you reach me? So for my Twitter account, I have a Strudel Talisheer, which is TALISHEER on Twitter. You find me there. I don't have the blue check for obvious reasons, okay? But you can definitely contact me there. Okay, it's easy to see which is the account because I don't think as to now I have a problem with that. You can see like other astrology, the names that I mentioned, or like, you know, people liking some of my posts. I don't get a lot of traction there, but because I don't have the blue check, and I'm also not living in the whereabouts where everybody knows everybody in the physical. So you kind of like, you will see certain names or certain people or certain colleagues liking my post, and you know that this is me and this is safe. I'm not going to send you over to Instagram because that can get really bad really quickly. And you DM me, okay? You turn to me and you tell me what is the reading that you want to have. You make an offer for the what would you like to buy. You don't make the purchase yet, okay? Then we go online. You see my face, either it's a Zoom conversation or something of that sort. You see my face, you scroll down my videos, make sure this is the face. My nose is not something that you can miss, and or my eyes, but you know. So you see who I am, you see my face, we talk to each other, and then online you basically fulfill the offer, okay, and then we continue on to the reading. Okay, so you make sure that I am speaking with you, and I make sure that you're fulfilling like the reading, because for every reading that you buy me, it means that I can do a subsidized reading with another person. I made it so that I'm whole with doing a subsidized reading for another person for these tokens or for these rewards. So that is something. And of course, when I make a subsidized reading, it's for a person that can't afford a reading, it's neurodivergent, it's, you know, all the reasons. And if you want a reading from me and you can't afford any of that, DM me and you get on the list of the people that I give subsidized reading for every reading. This is an attempt, okay? Subsidized reading for every reading that I get, and then I will contact you, and then you just get a reading from me, okay? So I do this because I want the bar to be set high enough so that you won't spend money that you don't have. I guess like if it's that expensive, you're gonna think about it, and you know, I don't want you to be paying me money that you need for rent or that you need for food. It's not the point. Here, on this case, you have my fully subscribed list, and if you can pay, then you know, put your money where your mouth is. It's going to contribute in energy, not only to the quality of the service you get, because I'm well fed, but also because you already are making remediative donation to various planetary spheres in you. And it's usually like that, the money goes to where it needs to when we set this intention. So if you absolutely can afford it, I want you to open your wallet and I want you to put your money where your mouth is. And I want to be able to support the people, so we both support good decisions, wiser economies, so people spend money when they have it and they are not accessing when they can't have it. Okay, if you're kind of like on the midways, then the quick tips to afford my readings: first of all, go to the offers, get acquainted, decide on the offer that you would like to be able to afford to buy me. Okay, there's something you're going to set the entire energy towards. I'm getting these means for this thing. Okay, decide on the type of questions and what you want to ask me. Okay, go to my Twitter page, go to my DMs, and even write a message and don't send it yet. Okay, set the energy towards I want to do this. Okay, put it on your money altar. Okay, decide what you want to receive from this reading. Keep it in your mind. Where do you want the money or the resources for the subsidized reading to go? Okay, and when you keep all these things positive, what positive changes I want to do in the world by the act of making this energy and material transaction with Shirley. Now, if I'm the right person for you, stuff are going to clear up from your life. And not only that, a lot of your answers are going to be your questions are going to be answered, so that you come to me kind of like purified, and you come with what's the biggest value I can give you. I always ask myself, ever since I was just teaching English to students, I always ask myself, what's the greatest value I can give to this person? Okay, so when that encounter comes, it's going to be there. And you'll see that coming up, and it also clears the path of wealth to me. And if I'm not the right person for you, either you're going to have mishaps and you're not going to be able to afford it, but then somebody else, maybe my colleague, maybe Angelita has a setting and then she does horary, and all you need is a horary, and you're like, I probably need a natal chart. It's like, no, I can solve it with a horary. Or something of the sort happen where it falls out, and either the right reading will come at the right time, or the right person will have this offer, and you're like, I need to go to them. Don't forget, bless you, don't forget that we all have natal charts, and they all react and interact in various ways, and it's not all in our control. So it's not about an audition. It's more about, if the energy fits and we both set an intention to do something that's good, then there's more probability that that will actually happen. Anyway, that is for me. You can subscribe. You can watch my Spirit of Matter episodes in this channel. My other channel is Jupiter Rising Shirley, which is spelled very weirdly, so maybe you will be able to find it. And I'm kind of growing also my other channel. So yeah. And as for other platforms, I know I should probably be on Rumble. I need to elect the time to do this. That's it. You can subscribe. You can click the bell. You can follow me on Twitter. And like I said, I'm an open book. So you can also see if this energy is right for you. If it's not the right energy for you, it's nothing wrong. And that's absolutely okay. It's kind of like have things dissolve. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.